Welcome to Westbury Analytics Radio, where ServiceNow performance analytics for senior executives comes alive. Experienced ServiceNow architects, performance management experts, and other executives in your field share insights for how to drive performance management using the power of ServiceNow performance analytics. Performance analytics is a game changer, but it requires a different way of thinking than how most people think about reporting and performance measurement. Our goal here is to help you develop that new way of thinking. I am your host, Pedro Soto. Today, we are fortunate to be joined by Omar Kazi. Omar is a strategic thinker capable of mapping business and executive goals to technology roadmaps, enterprise architectures, and value-based financial models. Let's go to Omar.
Hello, everybody. This is your host, Pedro Soto, welcoming you back to another episode of Westbury Analytics Talk Radio. My special guest today is Omar Kazi. Omar is the Chief Marketing Officer and co-founder of Carmorazi Business Technologies, a North American consulting and services organization that helps their clients realize the business value available in IT. Their extensive experience ensures that IT is linked to the company's strategic objectives and processes. Today, we're going to talk about running IT as a business. But before we jump into our topic, I want to thank you, Omar, for taking time out of your busy schedule and ask you to tell our audience a little bit more about you and how Carmorazi got started.
Hey, Pedro. Thank you for inviting me.
Sure.
Yeah, so Carmorazi Business Technologies has three founders, and we've all spent over 25 years in technology solutions and strategy, and we realized that we could help transform IT into a different way of delivery. So we were also on the same track as Westbury, and we thought about running IT as a business.
Okay.
The biggest thing was that after we left our previous jobs around early 2018, we realized that the industry did not have an independent group that could do this. So that's really our genesis.
Excellent. So it's how to run business as an IT. Now, we're going to talk about that and the relationship, how analytics really helps that and helps drive it. In your experience, what are some of the most common mistakes being made by organizations that want to launch an analytics program?
What we found is that most organizations try to create their own frameworks rather than borrowing from existing work. So the first kind of mistake we realized was that they were not mapping IT capabilities to outcomes. So that was the first one. Second one was that running IT as a business requires a culture change. IT needs to be more collaborative. That's really the second one. And then what it really had to do was, in order to do that, was to liaise upwards with the executives and across with the platform owners. Finally, they were really afraid to measure and then communicate those outcomes to the various teams, no matter how small those outcomes are or how basic. That was the kind of the third mistake most organizations were doing.
This is fascinating. I think I'm into my 14th. Let me just double check. Yep. So Omar, you're the 14th thought leader, co-founder, thinker, consultant that I have this kind of discussion with. And I always like to start asking in their experience. And I mean, you've been around for 25 years, your partners, similar. So the three of you have a combined 70 plus years of experience. So you're not neophytes, you're not juniors, sort of speaking from academia or from theory. You've seen this, right? 25 years. I do the math. If you do a rough number of 2,000 hours per year, I mean, that's almost part-time in our world, right? But that's 50,000 plus hours. So when you speak, you're speaking from experience. And I hear you saying, you know what? Organizations try to create their own frameworks instead of borrowing from existing ones, or they need to become more collaborative, which I think is another way of saying they need to become more aligned with the business. And then it's really tying to outcomes. Here's the interesting thing. If anyone was to listen to all 14 interviews I've done,
Yeah, true.
those three themes that you just pointed out, and a couple of others, consistently appear through the landscape. It's just fascinating. I think we're onto something.
Definitely onto something. And what happens is team leaders, directors, executives get lost in the day-to-day firefighting, right? And that has to change, where they have to catch up. The way to catch up is to work closely with their vendor partners and adopt what's already proven. A lot of frameworks help with that. For example, for us, we use the IT for IT framework, which was developed originally by HP Enterprise and then shared, and now it's run by the Open Group. So there's an example of a framework that has predefined success factors and KPIs that you can adopt. So that kind of approach sometimes helps organizations leapfrog into what I would call ready to go frameworks rather than creating their own.
Yep.
And they can use just the simplest ones that resonate, or take what's existing and maybe simplify it to just get started on their journey. That's the most important part, is find a few trusted vendors, start the journey now. Don't wait to be able to describe everything. That will come over time.
Yep, that's excellent. Excellent. Now, what would you say are some of the key questions that IT leaders need to ask themselves to implement an effective analytics program? In addition to keeping it simple, what are some other key questions?
Leaders really need to ask themselves, are we afraid of measuring ourselves? That's the first and most important question. Are we ready to create a wider discussion on metrics and KPIs? That's the second big question. Do we have sponsors and enterprise architects who are able to maybe start a program to get to the journey that they need to get on? I think those are some of the key ones, because if they start there and they talk to their peers and their other leaders, they'll understand where they are at right now in their maturity. So yeah, those are good starting points. Give you an example. One of the key things that you can do in terms of running IT as a business with the IT for IT framework is use a value stream called detect to correct. Now, this is a very easy description of IT operations, and it is mapped to ITSM or ITOM focused APIs. So that's a good way to say, hey, I know this exists. Are we ready to, adopt this and share or discuss it, or bring experts like Westbury or others that know about this into the organization and examine it. So that gives them an idea of where they stand. and if there's a culture change as well that has to happen. But those are some of the questions they should ask themselves.
Yeah, so you mentioned here one of those is do we have the sponsors and platform architects to engage in this initiative? And I have found that ownership and commitment, when it comes from the top and involves the team, so it's not just an effort driven from the top, but ownership and commitment is demonstrated at the top by allocating resources, by supporting the team, and by getting involvement from the team is so crucial. It's night and day. We have the opportunity to go into so many environments, and you'll have initiatives and projects where that is taking place, and then you have initiatives where it's more an isolated couple of people that see the potential in leveraging the data better, and they do a few things, but that danger of getting sucked into the day-to-day, if there's no organizational and leadership commitment and initiative, it doesn't last. It's a flash in the pan, and then all the fires take over, and it's very hard to maintain it.
Yeah, the longevity of any project or kind of task or initiative will not survive without some form of leadership. And that's really important. I know I've heard that said time and again from the likes of, Gartner and others. I've read it a couple of times in books as well. So that's a key question that executives need to ask themselves. Is there a logical sponsor within our team or within our executive leadership that can make sure that we keep focused, right, on what let's say this program is going to do for us. And that's really what analytics or KPIs or driving those is really about, a program that's a living program, not a project, not something that doesn't get updated, because you'll probably start very simple and then grow with that, or you'll start with a handful that are easy to understand, number of tickets or number of defects or number of incidents. But now you can take that information and then action it, right?
Right.
So that's what happens now that you have an executive sponsor saying, hey, okay, we've got all these metrics. What are we going to do with them? And that's what we find is that technology for technology itself is great, done by managers, but very often they don't have the oversight to say, okay, great, I see a trend in that our number of incidents has gone down, or great, why is that happening? And can we do it in other places, right? So that's the best part, is now actioning what the KPIs tell you, or maybe indicate, right? That's what I think executives get excited about. It's like, oh, great, so we did this, we understood what was going on. Now we know not to do it again. Not to update our website sooner than we can, or update it more often, or patch our machines, or do various other types of work. That is where they get excited, and that's where they see a return in the program, so to speak. And now IT truly is running like a business, because the outcome has been better performance, better customer service, right? More orders maybe, right? Happier partners or portals, whatever that may be. So.
Yeah. I'm curious because you spend a lot of time out there talking to clients. What are some trends that you're seeing that are pretty clear and you can see them playing out still over the next few years in terms of running IT as a business, in terms of using analytics to help you do that?
I think the one big trend is that people are now more and more interested in visualization,
Mm,
visualizing the metrics, um, and not just incidents or pop-ups. And they want to do that visualization by role. They are
mm,
interested. That's one of the biggest things that I see right now that has come to a point where people understand it, and they are interested in saying, hey, I would like certain metrics for my role. I would like
mm.
the same metrics in maybe a different representation for other team members,
Yep.
so that when we have a discussion on something that's not going well or something that is going well, we are staring at the kind of the same source of information. Visualizations are critical to communication, and having those online or at your fingertips or in a dashboard or in a daily report, however that may be generated, allows people to troubleshoot or improve uh, a process better. And I think that's the biggest key piece. The second is biggest trend in analytics is that um, they are aware that there are now KPI standards like APQC and others that they can educate themselves on. There are KPI standards from vendors such as yourself. There are KPI metrics from peer organizations.
Yeah.
So they are. Second thing that I'm seeing now is, oh yeah, I did read something about that. I now understand what a KPI is. A few years ago, we were just fighting to even make them understand what it was.
Yeah.
Um, and so that's the second one. So visualization is number one, and number two, the awareness of what a KPI could be like, and having seen some examples, really makes our life easier,
Yeah.
because that's now happened in the marketplace. Yeah.
That's really cool. I'm glad to hear that. And we had an earlier conversation, sort of scheduling our call today, and we talked a little bit about some subjects. But this question I just asked you in terms of trends, we didn't discuss. So it's really fascinating to hear you say that, because that is exactly what we're seeing. And our job here at Westbury is to help ServiceNow clients leverage a solution that's part of ServiceNow and it's platform-wide called performance analytics. And it accomplishes exactly that trend that you say of the data being visualized by the different roles. So you have, for instance, an analyst, and then you have a team lead, and then you have a process owner, and then you have the service desk leader, and then you have the head of the whole service management office. But you also have the organization that they're serving, right? That can be structured either in an organizational chart or through the business service architecture that they have, the owners of applications. And these solutions, particularly the performance analytics module in ServiceNow, allows you to literally connect all those roles across and up and down, so that you can have a CIO review together with the VP of infrastructure, who's overseeing the head of the service desk, and who is looking at each of the processes, and all be looking at what's relevant to them, their perspectives, and spot things quickly and identify root
Mm-hmm.
causes and the drivers, so they can take actionable, initiatives. Very,
And
very
that and
cool.
that's the key about visualization, right? You're sharing data across a team, and one team member may know of an event, for example,
Yeah,
a news event or a code change, and they go, yes, we have a reaction to that event, and we can see it. Um, is that the root cause? You've put right. What you've said is right on the money in that aspect. Um, and then I've even had uh, kind of people come to me and said, "Hey, we have uh, good input. We have data from you know uh, not only our ServiceNow platform, but other sources.
yes,
And we took some time and we kind of sat down and we did a mock-up to show you what we want." I've had actually a couple of customers, eager team members who are good with a tool,
yeah,
come and say, and they took some static data, put it in an Excel, and they did a visualization and said, we'd like to see this trend against this trend against this one, like
yep,
three of them side by side. Oh, and why is that? Well, every time we have a new feature rolled out, we see a spike and we see it driving more traffic to our infrastructure, for example.
yep, yep,
So I've actually seen that now, and I realize that rows and rows of tables and numbers are not it.
yep,
A static graph is not it. And that you will often be able to work with people within the client organization who understand good data that they've collected already.
yeah,
And they know their sources well sometimes,
yep,
but they don't know how to go from their sources to a good normalized data, maybe calculating a ratio, and then presenting that. Those are the
agreed.
steps. They don't know that, and that was the challenge for a lot of people, where they saw a good KPI, but they had to work backwards to understand that their inputs that they had could be easily worked into it, right?
Yep,
And then we said, yeah, you can export your data nightly, and from that source, and as long as it's properly formatted, we can pick it up, incorporate it into a daily dashboard.
yep,
And for them, not doing that manually
it's
uh,
huge.
was significantly huge, because they could do their daily, stand-ups, or their code review or their ops review after a change with the latest data.
Yep,
So you're not delaying a decision 2 weeks by the time they do it manually, or 3 weeks, right, as they normally would
yep,
have, because the person tasked with it was already overloaded and they couldn't get to it.
yep,
So yeah.
yeah. And we've also noticed that you look at most of the leadership in IT and service management who span experience of 20, 25, 30 years. We've grown up in a world of reporting, which are lists, basically lists. And it's a very flat, very unidimensional view of the world. And now with different roles in different contexts, for example, relationship between indicators that lag and indicators that lead, that's where the real power is to drive change. You can actually show the relationship between them and the chain, the cascading effect between a leading indicator to a lagging indicator to the ultimate business outcome, which is impossible to do with reporting. And there's a there's a mind shift that has to take place, right? When we've been so used to just get lists of things and counts for very operation opportunity. You have the need. You absolutely have to um, look at the context and the roles and the different perspectives that deliver the whole chain of value.
Mm-hmm. Totally. Yeah,
Yep.
it's that reducing time to decision
Yep.
that makes you competitive as a business or reduces risk. That's really important.
Yes, it is. Awesome. Hey, Omar, we've had a really cool discussion here. We can like to wrap it up and invite you to share something that may be happening in your world, in your company, you're doing sort of over the next few months that might really motivate our listeners to reach out and say, yeah, I got to look up Omar, I got to look up Carmorazi.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what's happening in the horizon for you guys.
Quite a bit. We are beginning to come to market now. We've launched 2 enablement programs for enterprise architects. You can take a look at it on our website. We have a TAP IT program, as we call it, just like it sounds.
Yeah.
It's to help people adopt the IT for IT framework, so you can run your IT as a business. So it's training and a program to help enterprise architects learn it. The second one is Measure IT, which are 2 workshops, again, to help enterprise architects and leaders plan their KPIs and plan their roles and their visualization. So it's, again, guidance, and
Yep.
that's really where we would partner with ServiceNow and Westbury Analytics, and then say, look, okay, you've done all your work, and now go and work with the tools and the vendors that you have in place. So we're offering these online and in class formats, the 2 formats. So yeah, very, very excited to be in this space and do that for the platforms that enable technology organizations. So yeah, that's very exciting for us right now.
Excellent. And your website is carmorazi.com. It's CARMORAZI, carmorazi.com.
Correct. Thank you.
Great.
That
All
is
right.
correct.
Awesome. Omar, thanks again for taking time out of your schedule and hanging out with us for a little bit and sharing your insights and your experience with our listeners.
Thank you, Pedro. It's been a lot of fun chatting with you and sharing some of our insights.
We see a time when all business leaders using ServiceNow Performance Analytics will easily know how to leverage its power to help them reach their business goals. Performance Analytics offers you a way to do that. To discover how you can get there faster, send us an email to info@westburyanalytics.com.